Broadcasting Network. Support MBN, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, and shop with us over at Montalvo Store. Go to ebay.com and search in the advanced search. Type in Montalvo Store. Now support Montalvo Broadcasting Network. We have a wide array of books on conspiracy, apparel, and much more. Support your favorite radio station, Montalvo Broadcasting Network, by visiting Montalvo Store on ebay.com.
Tribal, primitive, rustic, Burning Man, punk rock, conceptual subculture for the edgiest, most cutting-edge designs of jewelry today. Go to etsy.com/shop/conceptual subculture, or one word, either by going to Google or search Etsy, ETSY.com, and type in one word, conceptual subculture. You will find the hottest designs using natural stones with wire wrap rings, rough, raw, genuine, semi-precious gemstone jewelry, solid sterling silver, copper, leather, organite, bracelets, pendants, chokers, men's copper cups with sterling accents, eco-friendly, repurposed, original, one-of-a-kind design earrings. Support MBN by going to Conceptual Subculture on Etsy. Go to Antique Obsessions for the hottest in jewelry, antiques, repurposed, solid sterling silver, one-of-a-kind, handmade by Bruce and Jaja. Go to our Facebook, which is Antique Obsessions, or you can go to Etsy.com and go to Antique Obsessions, one word, or type it into your Google and find us there. Thanks.
Bruce Montalvo.
Continues to spread conspiracy theories.
Penchant for promoting bogus conspiracies as though they were fact.
Bruce Montalvo.
About his conspiracy theory.
This is CNN, a network of China broadcasting system.
Bruce Montalvo's the only radio talk show host that's not controlled.
This seal is a symbol of good television. It signifies
Montalvo Broadcasting Network
observes the high standards of programming and advertising recommended by the Television Code of the National Association of Broadcasters.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show. It's July 9th, 2019. And on today's broadcast, we have a very special guest. He is the founder of the Trends Journal. He successfully predicted the dot-com bust and the clean foods trend. We have him here on the line with us. You've heard him on shows like InfoWars. And he's here. He's genuinely witty. He is Gerald Celente. Hello, Gerald. Thank you for being on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You know, I wanted to ask you about the Funniest Reporter contest. You won that last year, right? So
I did.
You're a comedian too, as well.
Well, I'm sorry. What was it? What'd you say?
So you entered the Funniest Reporter contest in New York. How'd that go?
Well, yeah. Well, last year, not 2018, I won. They have for the Humane Society, they raise money, and they have reporters from New York, from Bloomberg, ABC, all of WINS, WABC, all that kind of stuff. And last year I won. And one of the ways I started it off with was that, these things that everybody has in their hand, these cell phones. I said, you know why they're called handhelds? Because everybody's masturbating in public. That's how I opened it up.
That's good. So you started off with dick and fart jokes. How could you lose? It's solid. Anyway, thank you so much for being on. You're a top trends forecaster, Gerald. What are some of the top trends you see developing towards 2020?
One of them in 2020, we believe after the presidential reality show ends, we're going to go into a very severe recession/depression.
Oh no!
Because all these markets have been just propped up with phony money. I call it monetary methadone since the panic of '08. Quantitative easing, negative and zero interest rates. As I say, they never taught me that in Economics 101 at graduate school. And they made this stuff up. And now what you're seeing is a global slowdown. And they're in the European Union, they can't bring interest rates lower. They're already negative. So they're going to try another quantitative easing scheme after pumping in, $3 trillion. And the same thing with Japan. They've been negative interest rates. The German Bund now is, 10-year Bund is a negative yield, as is in Japan. So, you're buying a bond, and in 10 years you get back less than what you paid for it. So what they're doing is they're artificially propping up the markets. And in the United States, with the presidential reality show and Trump as president, the cat's in the real estate business. He knows what happens. Interest rates go up, real estate values go down. And so too does the economy. So he's going to put more and more pressure on the Fed to do what he can to lower interest rates. And then I believe they're going to lower them probably 4 to 5 times between now and next November before the elections, because they have to boost up the sagging markets that are going to go down as money starts tightening up.
Well, I've heard you refer to it as an economic casino. Is that true?
It is. Of course it is. As I said, look, there's this whole debate going on now, with the new candidates on the Democratic side talking about socialism. And the Republican side's calling it capitalism. It's not capitalism. In capitalism, there's no such thing as too big to fail. All it is oligopolies. It's corporatism.
Right.
The big cats are running the whole show. And that's why you're seeing the other side of the movement. So it's going to be an ugly picture. It's ugly already. Look at the people out there. It's a freak show.
Oh yeah.
That's on the United States side. As far as the rest of the world, the reason the dollar's staying strong is because the other ones are so weak, not because the dollar's doing so great. We just saw the new May trade deficit came in, and it was worse than expected, and we're losing more and more money and printing more and more money. So the dollar's strong only because the other ones are so weak.
Right. So the markets, how have they recovered from Barack Body Odor Obama? Right? He just left his stench of sulfur all over the economy. How have they recovered now that we're in the Trump presidency?
Well, again, they recovered under the Obama administration as well. Trump just brought it to another level with his tax breaks.
I see.
And you look at the tax breaks, according to the Tax Policy Center, 86% went to the 1%. And no, the big corporations did put that money back into capital improvements and hiring. They put it back into the stock buybacks. And that's what drove it up. You're looking at almost $1 trillion worth of stock buybacks in 2018. Back up until like 1982, that was illegal. There was no such thing as allowing to buy stock buybacks. It artificially pushes the price of the stock up because it takes stock off the market. So the whole thing is a fraud. It was a fraud under Obama. With what Obama did, with that guy Eric Holder, the Attorney General, the banks were too big to jail.
Right.
So Obama was, they're all the same. It's, as George Carlin used to say, it's one big club and you're not in it. And I say Harvard, Princeton, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks.
You're totally right. Now let's talk about gold too, Gerald. It just keeps going higher and higher. And I'm in jewelry, so I'm wondering when am I going to be able to make some gold jewelry myself? So what's the primary function of gold? I know it's commodities, adornment. The Vatican has so much of it. Is Is it just to adorn the Vatican, make a whole bunch of gold toilets for them? I mean, what's gold being used for?
It's the reserve currency. It's been around since the beginning of time. They just made this fiat currency up, a couple of 100 years ago. They never had this stuff before. Everything was backed by gold and silver.
Right.
And that's why you're seeing, for example, what's going on, in the whole marketplace. You look at Russia increasing their gold. And you're looking at China. China just recently, increased their reserves. They pumped it up from $79 billion to $87 billion. But even that's the top gold consumer. China's reserve jump. So they're all doing it because they know that this digital money backed by nothing and printed on nothing isn't worth anything. It's just it's the charade that keeps it higher, and that's why we're saying when we believe the markets are going to crash severely in 2021, the end of 2020, the decline will begin. And gold, we sent out a trend alert to our subscribers on June 6th, so they have everybody to see. We called it the Gold Bull Run. Gold was at $1,332, and I've been buying. I bought my first buy of gold was in 1978, and it was $187.50 an ounce.
Wow!
So what you're looking at now, gold, hovering now around the 1,400 mark, and we said it had to break over 1,385 to find strength, and it has. And now we're saying the next big breakout point is 1,450. And I believe after that it's going to really jump quickly toward the 2,000 mark. And the other part of that is I've been saying this now for 6 years. I was, dovish on gold. Call the bottom of gold. I said it would go down to 1,100. And I think it went down to 1,050. So I've been negative on it, and then in June we changed our forecast because the banks around the world are pumping in more cheap money. Period. Paragraph. Look, in Turkey, Erdogan just fired the central banker, and so to think that the presidents don't have power over it's a lot of BS. In India, same thing. Modi fired their central banker several months ago.
Right.
Because it wasn't doing what the president wanted. And in the United States, Nixon called in Burns, and when inflation was skyrocketing, and he said, don't raise interest rates, and he didn't. And Reagan had called in Paul Volcker, the Fed chair, and called in by James Baker, chief of staff. And Volcker tells a story in his book.
Right.
And he said that the president, Baker said to Volcker, the president doesn't want you raising interest rates before the election.
Wow, that's crazy, Gerald. I mean, so what you're telling me is by 2020, it's going to be like a gold meteorite is going to come from the sky and cause Armageddon. Actually, that's what NASA's saying. Did you hear about that? NASA said a gold meteorite filled with gold. Is that it's heading towards us, I guess. Is that causing some type of a ruckus in the markets?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know that, I don't know much about that kind of part of it, but no, it's again, the markets were just artificially propped up. It's a game. Look, these are drug addicts. I call it monetary methadone. They're drug addicts. People have their different addictions. They call them investors. They're gamblers on Wall Street. That's all it is. It's a gamble. And they can't stop playing the game. And the story, it has nothing to do with the fundamentals of the economy.
Right. Sounds to me like they're gambling on war with Iran. I mean, does that have anything to do with the fact that the Iranian central bank there isn't backed by, U.S. assets? What can you tell us about the trends going into this Iran conflict?
Well, back in 2018 in our Trends Journal, one of our top trends was market shock, mass murder. And we said that markets would shock when there is an outbreak of war with Iran and oil prices would spike over $100 a barrel. Right now, they're around $65 a barrel for Brent crude. There's an alliance hooking up between, it was, it still is, and as we were writing about it, Israel, the United States, and Saudi Arabia. And the incidents that happened recently blaming Iran for the tanker explosions in the Persian Gulf with absolutely no proof.
Right.
Kinds of sounds like the Gulf of Tonkin incident in Vietnam that never happened, and Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
And they refuse to provide any proof. This is a fact. There is no proof. So then the Iranians shot the United States drone. The United States said it was in international territory. Iran said it wasn't. But just put this picture out there. Suppose there was an Iranian battle fleet 12 miles off the coast of California and New York, and they're sending drones to the shores of America. You'd think we would tolerate that? But anyway, this wasn't just one of those drones you see, these little toys. This is, depending on whose numbers you believe, between $100 to $200 million sophisticated drone. They shot it out of the sky at a very high altitude. The reason Trump did not attack Iran after that happened, no, it wasn't because they were going to kill 150 people. It's because Iran would have retaliated and you would have seen another Pearl Harbor, but this time in the Straits of Hormuz. We would have been sitting ducks. Aircraft carriers, battle fleets, they're like battleships. This is 20th century technology in the 21st century. Generals are always fighting the last war. You have hypersonic laser weapons, all different kinds of weaponry now. So we would have been literally sitting ducks, and that's why I don't believe the United States is going to start a military war with Iran. They've already launched an economic warfare against them.
That's right.
I think the countries that you have to look to starting a conflict with Iran is number one, Israel, number two, Saudi Arabia.
Right. Well, the Iranians are being awfully pushy. I mean, they captured during the Obama administration. Not only did they take a briefcase filled with millions, or probably more, but they kidnapped the Navy, the U.S. Navy. They took the ship. Right. There was that incident there, and I've heard that they even might be reverse engineering, some type of UFO aircraft as well. That's probably why Trump is so adamant about this Space Force.
Well, again, with the one you're mentioning under Obama, they claim that they went into Iranian territory and they let them out real quick. But look at the United States. Remember they shot down the Iranian airliner? Oh, and how about the United States? You remember that guy, Donald Rumsfeld, giving Saddam Hussein those golden spurs in 1980 to start the Iraq war against Iran? I mean, the United States has been going after Iran ever since they overthrew the Shah.
Right.
And you go back to 1953 when the United States, the CIA, with Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's great-grandson, was the guy with the CIA and the MI6 to the UK that overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in Iran, because Mossadegh had the nerve, the gall, to nationalize the oil and say, no, it doesn't belong to Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. It's the Iranian oil. And again, it's the United States that has been doing this. And, mind your own business. Stay home. We have no business being there. Again, can you imagine if the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, the people we hate the most, had battle fleets in the Gulf of Mexico and had ships coming up and down our coast all the time?
Oh, man.
We never tolerated for a second.
Kicked their asses, yeah. Oh, man. But, yeah, we're big bullies. As the Americans, USA, we're big bullies. I mean, look at the track list of starting shit. I mean, it's pretty much endless on the U.S. side, right, Gerald?
Well, look what they're doing in Venezuela. Mind your own damn business.
Yeah.
But then you listen to that freak, John Bolton, our national security advisor, not my national security advisor, he works for the club, saying that we need to bring American oil companies into Venezuela. Venezuela is sitting on the world's largest oil reserves. Those are his words. We wrote it in the Trends Journal. Sorry. And it would be, quote, good for the American people. You think we care about Iran or Iraq or Libya if their major export of Venezuela was broccoli?
Oh, no. So Guaido is being put in as the coup to take over their assets.
Of course, he's a little flunky. Look at his history. Where'd he go to school? At George Washington University? I mean, the guy's he's one of them.
Right.
Yeah, he's a member of the club.
He's a reptilian.
Look what the Americans did to Honduras. Just last week, we just celebrated the overthrow of the democratically elected government pushed by Hillary Clinton and Obama. Look at Honduras now. Look at Costa Rica, not Costa Rica, El Salvador. Look at Guatemala. Look at these countries. They're in mayhem. Look at Haiti. The United States never stops, and they never win.
Right, Gerald. You mentioned Haiti, and Clinton's. They run a lot of the gold mines out there in Haiti. They have a lot of gold as well. I mean, how would them being let's say hypothetically saying they get arrested because one of their friends, Jeffrey Epstein, just got arrested. So let's say they get arrested, right? How would that affect the gold market?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Nah. Now, gold's going its own way because of the economic fundamentals. And the economic fundamental is every country is doing more and more to pump more fake money into the system to prop it up.
Right.
And that's why they're building their gold reserves.
Did you ever hear about that conspiracy where the Clintons supposedly took all the gold from Fort Knox?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. And I think about this. Here we are. This is the United States that invades other countries under the BS line of bringing freedom and democracy. And we, the stupid little people of Slavelandia, are not allowed to see what's in Fort Knox. We're not allowed to look in. And they got the nerve to call this a democracy? Save your crap. We got run by two gangs, the Dumbo-craps and the Repulsive-kins. End of story. Murderers and thieves. By their deeds you shall know them.
Absolutely, Gerald. You mentioned the whole Mossadegh being put into power by the CIA. They did the same thing in China, and now you have all these mega corporations out there that are run by China. You got Levi's, you have Nike being openly anti-American now. They're saying that Betsy Ross is racist. I mean, the Levi's going anti-gun, all for gun control. I did some research. I saw that China has almost all their investments put into these countries. So is that like a soft coup for China to take us over here through these corporations?
What's happened is the American corporations and the European corporations sold the countries out by bringing in, and again, it began under, really pushed the hardest. It tried to happen under the Reagan administration and the Bush administration. It didn't happen. It happened under the Clinton administration the most, with bringing China into the World Trade Organization and NAFTA. So what these companies did was they took our technology that we the people pay for, and they brought it over to these countries so they could use slave labor to make their products and bring them back and make more profit. So you don't blame China for stealing our technology. They gave it to them. And here's the deal. Yeah, you can open up a firm here, but you only could be a minority partner in it, only 49%. And you mentioned Nike and Levi, and there's Apple. As Dr. Paul Craig Roberts says, they're the ones that should be paying the taxes for the products coming in. So the Chinese, the business of China is business. The business of America is war. The Chinese are buying up the world. Ports all over the world. Their Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. I was in the Philippines about 2 months ago. Loads of it being bought up by the Chinese. Staying at some of the top hotels owned by the Chinese. It's all throughout Asia. and now it's going into South America, going into Africa. They're in Africa already. They're going into Eastern Europe. The business of America's war.
Absolutely.
The business of China is business.
Right. We went from, having a total Marxist in the White House now to also having a businessman in the White House now with very close ties to China. I mean, he's working very closely with them. Is there any way Trump might be undermined, by the Chinese?
No, I don't think so. But to me, this is not a complicated issue. We just bring things back to where they were. I wouldn't do these tariffs. I'd say we're putting back in laws that were in place before NAFTA and before the World Trade Organization. End of story.
Right. Very, very, very true. Bitcoin. The Iranians are banning Bitcoin. Why is that, Gerald?
Well, the same with the Chinese. Because what happens is their currencies are going down. And so what people do is they see their currencies declining, so they want to go into an alternative, and Bitcoin is a good alternative to go into. And that's what drove the price of Bitcoin up initially, was the Chinese buying it. You go back to 2015, 2016, and you had the Chinese crisis going on in the economic front. And the yuan, it was draining out of the country. So to stop the money from flooding out of the country, they stopped allowing Bitcoin trading. So more and more countries are going to do it as they see their currencies devalue. So the people that are going into cryptocurrencies, they can't afford to buy an ounce of gold, many of them.
Right.
So that's why they go into that. I mean, you're looking at $1,400 worth of gold you have to buy for an ounce, around there. We could, back in the day, you still can. You could buy a piece of Bitcoin,
right?
A piece of a cryptocurrency. So that's why they're stopping it, because their currencies are on the decline, and they want to stop the capital outflows.
And Mark Zuckerberg is doing something very scary. He's introducing the mark of the beast, right? The Zucker coin. What do you make of this Facebook currency, the Libra? It seems like the demon Mammon has taken over Zuckerberg, and now he's the devil himself trying to issue this mark of the beast money.
It's a smart move by them, because we have monopolies running the country, and it's as simple as that.
Right, the robber barons are now Google and Facebook and Apple. They're the new robber barons.
Well, not only them. Then there's, when I was a kid, they had things called hardware stores. And now you have Home Depot and Lowe's. When I was a kid, there was a thing called stationery stores. And now you have Staples and the other one, the Office Depot. And then when I was a kid, they had a thing called drug stores. Now you have CVS and Walgreens.
Right.
And when I was a kid, there was a thing called grocery stores. And now you have Walmarts. So what they did was they deregulated the antitrust laws. The Robbins-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act, and the banking sector, of course, under Clinton, the Glass-Steagall Act. So it's put all the concentration. It's not only in big tech. The concentration of wealth is in the hands of a very few. Look, you've got three people in the United States. Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates have more money than half the American population combined. You have 27 people in the world have more money than half the world's population.
Wow. Well, it's the golden rule, right? He who has the gold makes the rules. Gerald, when I was a kid, they had malls, right? So now they're gone, and they had mom and pop shops. So it's pretty much like the death of American mom and pop shops. But it's also, it changes, so people adapt. So they're on the mom and pop shops are now on the internet, right? So
yes and no, but to a very small extent, because the big ones are still taking all the action. Look at Amazon. Look what they've done to the publishing business, and on and on.
Yeah.
And again, it's the bigs are taking over. You get on the internet as a small one, and you could grow, but it's a lot different. Look, the middle class in this country is gone.
Yeah,
we're only about 50% middle class. You have bigger middle class in Europe, and this was the envy of the world. So it's very hard for. look, yeah, you're seeing a boom in apartment building. But people can't afford to buy a house.
Right. It's that Agenda 21. It fits into that Agenda 21 thing. I want to ask you about gold again, Gerald. Have you heard that, the masters of the universe, these Illuminati, they have weapons beyond our, vast imagination. They have weather controlling weapons, such as HARP. I've heard that they're able to find where the gold is using HARP.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's big league stuff.
But again, you don't have a lot of gold out there.
Right.
And maybe they'll be able to find it, but, the time it gets out of the ground, I see gold, again, my breakout point is $1,450 an ounce.
Right.
And I don't see a big downside risk to gold at all. The downside risk to gold for me is $1,270. $250, $270, which is a very small downside in the commodities markets.
Okay. Where do you think most of the silver is? Is it in Mexico? I just want to know so I can go over there and get it all.
I have no idea.
Okay, Gerald. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on my broadcast. We want to bring you on as many times as you'd like. And to let our listeners know where they can find your Trends Journal, how they can subscribe, and so on.
Well, go to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. Look, you get, it's your choice. Get Time Magazine, last week's news tomorrow, or the Trends Journal, tomorrow's news today. It's the only magazine in the world where you can read history before it happens. You mentioned some of my forecasts earlier in the show. I coined the term the Panic of '08. I took out the domain name in 2007. And you mentioned the dot-com crash. Wall Street Journal credited me with calling the crash of 1987 the market crash, one after another.
Right.
We have a track record of trends throughout a whole variety that we say, come up against us, put your information out there. We're the world's #1 trend forecaster, so if you want to see what's going on, the Trends Journal will help you do that. And if you don't like it, it's a money-back guarantee, so you lost nothing.
Thank you, Gerald. One last question, do you still have that nice bar at your house? That bar kicked ass, man.
Well, that's in our offices. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We have two. Actually, we have two bars.
I went, I saw your nice bar, on YouTube. I was like, oh, man, that bar is nice. I went out and I got one, too. I said, I want one, too, man. Thank you,
man.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you so much for being on. That
Bye-bye.
was top trends forecaster Gerald Celente. You've been listening to the Bruce Montalvo Show. Very special show. Very special guest. Follow us on Twitter at Bruce Montalvo, Bruce Montalvo Show. On Facebook at Bruce Montalvo Show. And till next time, sayonara.
Montalvo Broadcasting Network.